If you've ever come across some pretty little stones while walking in nature, you've probably wondered if any of them could actually be worth something. And the truth is, there are really only two possibilities in that moment. The first is that you just ignored an ordinary rock with no value. But the second is much more exciting because there's a real chance you walked right past a golden opportunity. The problem is to tell one from the other, luck isn't enough. You need to know what to look for. So with so many rocks scattered on the ground, how do you figure out which ones are truly valuable? That's exactly what we're going to talk about in today's video. Here on the channel, we've already shown how to find different kinds of gemstones in nature, including meteorites that often look like ugly, worthless rocks, but can actually be worth millions of dollars. That's the perfect example of how appearances can be deceiving. Something that looks like an ordinary pebble might actually be a rare collector's piece or even a gem worth thousands of dollars per carat. But in the middle of so much mineral diversity, it really is hard to know what's precious and what's just another rock. That's why I've put together a list of the 5 main gemstones you can find in nature. And believe me, if you pay close attention, there's a good chance you'll end up spotting at least one of these on any walk outdoors, whether on a trail, along a riverbank, or maybe even right in your own backyard. Don't underestimate them because these stones can be far more valuable than you might think. We're talking about values that could easily add thousands of dollars to your bank account. And when it comes to so-called semi-precious stones, the advantage isn't just in the value of each individual piece, but in the quantity. If you find one, chances are you'll find several more in the same spot. That's very different from high-value gemstones like diamonds or rubies, which usually require much more searching just to find a single specimen. That's why learning to notice the details is so important. Some gems can be identified by their intense color or their distinctive shine, while others only reveal their value when you test their hardness, weight, or even the shape of the crystal. For example, a piece of milky quartz might look worthless, but if it shows transparency and an even color, it can be used in jewelry or collections. A garnet that's been tumbled by river water might look like a plain dark pebble, but with the right cut and polish, it can be worth a surprising amount. And here's a key point many beginners overlook. Every stone, whether it's considered precious or semi-precious, has some value. That value can range from just a few dollars per pound all the way up to millions for a single gem, depending on its quality, color, rarity, and market demand. In other words, the more transparent, pure, and vivid a gem's color is, the higher its price will be. That's why two stones from the very same mineral family can end up with completely different values. Take emeralds, for example, which are among the most valuable gemstones on Earth. It's common to find specimens with an intense green color that look attractive at first sight, but when you hold them closer, they appear cloudy, dull, and without much sparkle. Even so, that's still a genuine emerald, and it already holds good market value. But if that same emerald happens to show strong transparency, inner brilliance, and a uniform, vivid color, its price can multiply many times over. A super clear emerald with very few visible inclusions can reach prices that leave those cloudy stones far behind. And this logic applies to practically all gemstones. Diamonds, for example, can often be found in rough form with a yellowish, brownish, or even gray tint, which lowers their value considerably. But when the stone shows perfect clarity and that inner sparkle known as the fire of the diamond, the price skyrockets. A translucent diamond of just a few carats might be worth hundreds of dollars, while another of the exact same weight but exceptional quality could be worth millions. The same is true for sapphires. A pale blue sapphire, milky and without inner shine, might look nice and desirable, but it will rarely reach a high price. On the other hand, a sapphire with a deep, uniform blue and high transparency can reach extremely high values, sometimes even surpassing rubies of the same category. And the diversity of this stone is impressive. Pink sapphires, yellow sapphires, even colorless ones can be highly valuable depending on their purity and color intensity. The rule also holds for tourmalines, which are relatively common stones. Many specimens show mixed colors, cloudy zones, or less attractive tones, and in that state, they only hold moderate value. But when a tourmaline shows up with neon color, crystal clear transparency, especially the famous Paraiba tourmalines, the price can shoot up into the tens of thousands of dollars per carat. That's why even when we're talking about semi-precious stones like quartz, garnet, or amethyst, what really defines the value is the beauty of the color and the degree of transparency. A pale, cloudy amethyst might be worth just a few dollars, but a rich purple amethyst with strong clarity can be worth far more. The same goes for garnets. A common, dark garnet might only serve as a decorative piece, but a translucent red garnet, well cut and polished, can easily become a sophisticated gemstone in fine jewelry. So let's start with the first stone you might find in nature. It isn't the easiest to identify, especially if you're just getting started, but with a bit of luck, you can definitely come across it. I'm talking about opals. We've already discussed this gem a lot here on the channel, and you probably know by now how valuable it can be. In case you don't, opal is one of the most sought-after gems in the world, both by collectors and jewelers, and it can be found in different countries and regions, showing a wide variety of colors and effects that make all the difference in price. The most famous and expensive of them all is fire opal, with its intense orange tone, often translucent, glowing as if the light comes from within. Right after that comes noble opal, known for its unmistakable play of colors, flashing rainbow-like patterns that shift as the stone moves. And then there's black opal, one of the rarest and most highly valued gems on the market, prized because its bright, vibrant colors appear in stark contrast against a dark background, creating a dramatic effect. But don't think opals are limited to these high-value types. There are dozens of varieties classified as common or semi-precious opals that still hold solid market demand. Opals can appear in purple, blue, green, yellow, or even completely colorless forms. And even the simpler ones have value, whether in handicrafts, jewelry, or as collectible pieces. In raw form, opals can range from about $20 up to $5,000 per kilo, depending on their color, intensity, and clarity. One very important detail about opals is that, unlike many other gemstones that are trapped in hard host rocks, opal is relatively easy to find near the surface. That's why in some regions you can literally stumble upon an opal deposit without having to dig deep. They form in cavities and fractures of sedimentary rocks, especially sandstone, from the slow deposition of silica carried by underground water. Because of this geologic origin, opal tends to feel lighter compared to other gemstones. People often describe holding a rough piece as similar to holding a smooth, hard piece of plastic. Another feature that deserves attention is opal's internal structure. Unlike quartz or emerald, opal isn't a rigid crystal with a fixed lattice. Instead, it's made up of microscopic silica spheres packed in special patterns. This arrangement is what produces the famous optical effect called opalescence, that shimmering play of colors that seems to move inside the stone as the angle of light changes. The more uniform the size of those silica spheres, the stronger and sharper the play of colors will be, and the higher the opal's value. Opal also has something that makes it unique: its water content. On average, an opal contains between 3 and 10% water in its structure, which makes it sensitive to changes in temperature and humidity. Some opals may crack or lose part of their color if exposed to intense heat or very dry environments for long periods. This is a detail many beginners overlook, but it's crucial for anyone planning to collect or sell these stones, since proper storage and care directly affect the price. You may not find a perfect noble opal with brilliant play of color right away, or a rare black opal, but even the simpler varieties still have solid value on the market. What matters is training your eye to recognize the smooth surface, the lighter feel, the wide range of possible colors, and above all, that unique glow that no other stone can truly imitate. Just like opal, another stone you'll almost certainly come across in nature, and one you might have already seen if you follow this channel, is jasper. If you're not familiar with it, jasper is usually remembered as that little red or brown pebble you find along trails, riverbanks, or rocky ground. But in reality, jasper is much more versatile than it seems. It can be found in almost every color, with such a wide variety that each type usually ends up with its own trade name. There are yellow jaspers, green, blue, black, gray, and even multicolored ones. And within those colors, the patterns become even more striking. Some show circular spots, others display parallel stripes, dendritic shapes that look like tree branches, or even miniature natural landscapes. That's why many collectors call jasper the landscape stone, because on a single surface you can see shapes that resemble mountains, rivers, forests, or deserts. The number of trade names is truly impressive. There's leopard jasper, with spots that resemble the animal's coat. Bloodstone or heliotrope, which mixes green with red specks. Ocean jasper, with colorful orbs that look like bubbles. Picture jasper, with patterns that look like painted landscapes. And even Dalmatian jasper, white with black spots. Just listing these could take hours, and still we wouldn't cover them all. But here's the main rule you need to remember. The more colorful, vibrant, and visually striking the jasper is, the higher its commercial value. Dull, opaque, or low-contrast specimens don't attract much interest. But a jasper with unique, eye-catching patterns can become a collector's piece or even raw material for artisanal jewelry. Here in the United States, there are vast, unexplored areas where new varieties may still be discovered. Regions like Oregon, Arizona, Idaho, and California are already famous for producing high-quality jasper. Biggs jasper from Oregon is well known for its patterns that look like desert landscapes. In Arizona, the variety known as Desert Sunset shows warm red and orange tones that resemble the desert sky at dusk. And beyond those, countless local jaspers have been found by amateur collectors and later entered the international market under their own regional names. And that's an interesting detail. There's always a chance you might stumble upon a type of jasper that hasn't even been cataloged in gemology books yet. That happens because jasper is technically a microcrystalline variety of quartz mixed with impurities, and those impurities are what create nearly endless patterns. That means each deposit can produce a unique kind of jasper, often earning a local name based on where it was found. Beyond its aesthetic and commercial value, jasper also has practical uses. With a hardness of about 6.5 to 7 on the Mohs scale, it's durable enough for carvings, cabochons, and even decorative pieces. In the lapidary market, the most attractive specimens are cut and polished into cabochons for jewelry or into slabs for decorative purposes. When it comes to price, jasper varies widely. Common specimens can sell for around $10 per kilo in rough form, but pieces with vibrant colors, sharp patterns, and local rarity can easily reach between $150 and $250 per kilo. Larger blocks with exceptional patterns can even go higher, sometimes being highly sought after at mineral shows. Another stone you'll almost certainly find, and most likely have already picked up at some point without realizing, is agate. This is definitely one of the most talked about stones here on the channel because the chances of coming across one are very high. If you search carefully, it's almost guaranteed you'll find agate in nature. And the best part is, yes, agates can be valuable. But here's the important detail. Not every agate will have market value. To know which ones are worth keeping, you need to look for the stones that stand out for their colors and, above all, their unique internal patterns. The most distinctive and easy to recognize feature of agate is its banding, those layered stripes that often create beautiful, intricate designs. These bands can be parallel, curved, concentric, or even form shapes that resemble landscapes or abstract figures. This diversity is what makes each agate unique, and it's also why some specimens are highly sought after by collectors. The clearer, sharper, and more colorful the patterns, the higher the stone's value. Agates are very common in rivers, especially in areas with a history of volcanic activity. That's because they form inside cavities of volcanic rocks, slowly filling with silica over thousands of years. As the host rock erodes over time, the agates break free and get carried by water, becoming rounded and easier to spot. Just like jasper, agates are extremely commercial stones, and that's why many people overlook them, thinking they're too common or not worth much. But that's a mistake. While agates are abundant, certain varieties are highly sought after by collectors, lapidaries, and artisans because of their remarkable patterns. Once cut and polished, agates can reveal designs that look like eyes, waves, flowers, trees, or even maps. And this unique visual appeal can raise their price significantly. In the United States, several regions are famous for agate production. In Montana, for example, you'll find the well-known Montana agates, recognizable by their dark inclusions that create natural landscape scenes inside the stone. In Michigan, Lake Superior agates stand out for their bold colors, usually in shades of red, orange, and brown. And in Oregon, the famous thunder eggs are volcanic nodules that, when broken open, reveal beautiful agates and chalcedonies inside. Each region produces its own unique style, which is why collectors often seek out stones from specific locations. Market values for agates vary widely. Plain, low-contrast stones with little color usually sell for just a few dollars per kilo, but special agates with vivid colors and striking designs can climb in value very quickly. Some polished pieces of exceptional quality can reach several $100s, while rare blocks with one-of-a-kind patterns or recognized origins can go for over $1,000. That puts certain agates right on the level of traditionally precious gemstones. Beyond their visual appeal, agates are also widely used in jewelry and craftwork. Earrings, necklaces, rings, and bracelets made with polished agate are popular because of the huge variety of colors and patterns that make every piece unique. They're also used for carvings, cabochons, and even larger decorative items like tables and furniture inlaid with agate slabs. Agates definitely have the potential to be valuable. But besides agates, another stone you can easily come across in nature is chalcedony. You might have already seen it without realizing, because most of the time it shows up in more discreet tones like light brown, beige, or gray. These are the most common colors, which is why many people overlook the stone. But what most don't know is that chalcedony can appear in almost any color, and when it shows up in more vibrant shades, it can reach very high values. Among the most desired are blue chalcedonies, which can range from a soft sky blue to a deeper shade that looks like a winter sky. There are also green and purple chalcedonies, which are even rarer to find in natural form. These striking colors usually result from tiny amounts of minerals and impurities present during formation, giving the stone unique hues that are highly valued in the market. Of course, chalcedonies in these special colors aren't easy to come by. Most of the time, they appear in areas with ancient volcanic activity or in silica-rich sedimentary regions that provide the perfect conditions for crystallization. Still, even in less explored areas, you could stumble upon a specimen with an unusual color. And that's exactly what makes the search so exciting for hobbyist gem hunters. In the United States, there are several important occurrences of chalcedony. In Oregon and Montana, for example, beautiful blue chalcedonies are found and are often used to make jewelry and cabochons. In Arizona and Nevada, chalcedony commonly appears in grayish or whitish tones, usually linked to areas of old lava flows. And in Wyoming, collectors have reported finding green and purple chalcedonies in certain spots, though in smaller quantities. Each region has its own distinct characteristics, which makes local specimens even more valuable. One of the most defining features of chalcedony is its uniform, translucent texture. Unlike agate, which displays stripes and inner banding, chalcedony is more homogeneous, making it ideal for cutting and polishing. When shaped and polished, it shows a soft, glassy luster that highlights its natural color. This clean, crystal-like quality is what makes it so attractive to jewelers, since the stone stands out even without complex internal patterns. Another interesting fact is that chalcedony isn't just a single stone. It's actually a large mineral family that includes other well-known gems such as chrysoprase, an intense green chalcedony, sardonyx, with brown and white layers, carnelian with its reddish-orange tone, and even onyx, black or banded. Each variety carries its own market value, and some, like chrysoprase, can be extremely valuable, often competing with traditionally precious gemstones. When it comes to price, chalcedony covers a wide range. Common specimens in neutral tones without much transparency can sell for as little as $20 per kilo in rough form. But rarer chalcedonies with intense color and gem-quality transparency can easily exceed $1,000 per kilo, especially when cut into standout pieces. This places the rarest types of chalcedony right alongside some of the most prestigious gems on the international market. Another stone you'll almost certainly find in nature, practically anywhere you look, is quartz. And here we're not just talking about the clear quartz crystals that many people are already familiar with. We're talking about the entire quartz family, which is one of the most diverse in the mineral world. This family includes everything from the simplest, most common quartzes to varieties that are highly valuable and internationally sought after. There are so many different types of quartz that it would be impossible to list them all in a single video. We have clear quartz, smoky quartz, rose quartz, citrine, amethyst, milky quartz, rutilated quartz, tourmalinated quartz, and many more, each with its own colors and unique traits. And the main rule to keep in mind when evaluating any quartz is simple. The more translucent it is, and the fewer fractures it has, the more valuable it will be, regardless of its color. Quartz is very common in nature, especially in rivers, where it appears as tumbled stones with rounded edges. In these conditions, it's normal to find pieces with internal inclusions, tiny fragments or patterns formed by other minerals trapped during the crystal's growth. Far from being flaws, these inclusions often make quartz even more interesting, since they turn each specimen into something unique. And it's this uniqueness that makes quartz one of the most widely used stones in jewelry, because no two pieces are ever exactly the same. Some inclusions are so distinctive that they even have their own names. Rutilated quartz, for example, is filled with golden or silvery needle-like threads of rutil, creating a striking visual effect. Tourmalinated quartz contains black tourmaline filaments contrasting against the translucent crystal. There are also quartzes with inclusions of hematite, chlorite, and even tiny liquid bubbles that were trapped millions of years ago, acting like natural time capsules. In the United States, there are several regions well known for producing high-quality quartz. Arkansas is one of the most famous, particularly for its exceptionally pure clear quartz crystals. States like Colorado, Maine, and California also have rich quartz deposits, often associated with pegmatites that host other valuable gems as well. And really, in almost any riverbed or geologically diverse terrain, you're likely to come across quartz fragments in different forms. In terms of value, quartz shows a huge range. Common specimens like milky quartz rarely fetch a high price, often being sold in bulk for very little. But varieties such as high-quality rutilated quartz or deeply colored amethyst can reach prices from a few dozen to several $100s per kilo in rough form. Natural citrine, which is relatively rare, is also highly prized, especially when it shows a uniform golden tone. So just like we saw with opal, jasper, agate, and chalcedony, what really determines whether a quartz specimen will be considered valuable is its color, its clarity, and the patterns or inclusions it contains. These factors can transform what looks like an ordinary crystal into a one-of-a-kind piece with significant value in the jewelry and collectors markets. When you stop and think about it, all the stones we've talked about here share something in common. They can be found by ordinary people, in accessible places, often without the need for heavy machinery or professional mining. Luck can play a role, but what really makes the difference is knowledge. If possible, consult a geologist or an experienced prospector in your area before you start searching. Because knowing where to look, how to read the local geology, and most importantly, how to recognize what you're holding, is what separates someone who just picks up a strange rock from someone who discovers a real treasure. And that's exactly why we created the physical book, Gemology Journey for Beginners, available on Amazon. It was designed for newcomers, for people who can't rely on a professional, with simple and practical explanations that teach you how to identify and distinguish gemstones using accessible, at-home methods without needing to invest in expensive equipment. This book has already helped hundreds of people better understand what they're finding in nature. And for subscribers of this channel, it's available with a special discount at the link in the description. Of course, if right now isn't the moment for you to buy a book or become a channel member, that's totally fine. You can still subscribe for free and follow along with our upcoming videos, which always bring practical tips on how to identify and find valuable stones. In the next episode, for example, we'll talk about diamonds and answer a question I get almost every day. Why are they so valuable? And where can you actually look for them in nature? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe so you won't miss any of the upcoming content. Good luck, Gem Hunter!